All right, we are live. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great week and really kicking off 2021 with some enthusiasm. So today, our big question is to pivot or not to pivot. So how long has it been since you have loved your job? Has it been 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, never? So many of us stay in a role that no longer serves us, that we're no longer passionate about, and we tend to stay in those roles for far too long. And why do we do that? Well, there's a couple of reasons, really, right? We stay in roles because people have expectations of us and we have financial commitment. So we stay in it for money, assuming that we're not able to get something that we'd love to do at the same rate that we're being paid today. Also, let's face it, even if you don't love it, as long as you don't hate it, it's kind of comfortable. And it's a lot harder to be able to, make that change when you're not in significant pain. And then also, I think a lot of us struggle with that uncertainty that, okay, even if I were to change, how do I even know that that is going to be better than what I have right now? So we have all these things that get in our way. And what I wanted to do is share a quick story about me and a time that I really did not love my job, didn't hate it, but didn't love it, and how that impacted me. And then we're going to go into 5 signs that are big signs that it's time for you to make a pivot. And it's probably time for 2021 to be your year to do that. So early in my career, I was chugging along. Everything was great. Loved what I was doing. Loved the people, all of those things. And then there was a leadership change. There was a massive reorg and a new leader came in and put her leadership in place. And it changed the dynamics of everything. And even though the work was the same and my coworkers were the same and all the things that I loved were the same, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel natural, and it didn't feel like I wanted to get up every morning and be excited and go. And what ended up ultimately happening is that my work started to suffer. And I hate to say that because I'm really priding myself on my work, but I actually stopped caring about what I was doing. And the meetings were exhausting, and everyone started to get frustrated, and all these things were happening. And so pop in that chat window if you've been there too, either now or back in your career. But it really had an impact on my professional brand. And I went from rock star, get it done girl to, is she really the right person for this role? And that's when I knew it was time for me to make a move. Because even though everything else was the same, when I wasn't happy, when I wasn't in that role that energized me every day, my performance suffered. And you know what else suffered? Family, right? I would love to say that I can compartmentalize things and work is work and home is home, but it's not. And so I started to really pull back at home because I was so stressed out and just not happy with what I was doing. I was being short and abrupt with my daughter, who was 2 or 3 at the time, and things that would normally roll off my back, I started to be really impatient about. And I started to not spend as much time with my friends and reach out to my community. And I didn't even realize all this was happening until I got out of the situation. And so all of these things, when you are in a job that doesn't fit, for far too long, slowly start to creep in on all the things that are happening. And before you know it, when you look back, you're like, holy crap, what is going on here? And I don't want that to happen to you. And I talked to a lot of people. We're in the middle of a big 5-day challenge this week. And so many people have not loved their jobs in far, far too long. But the good news is you can change that. We'll talk about that later. But right now, I want to share with you the warning signs that this may be time for you to make a pivot. I love to see a lot of activity, and I love to read what everybody's typing. Let me know if any of these resonate with you. So the first thing you should know, first warning sign that you should keep an eye out that it's time for you to make a career change is if you've lost your mojo. If all of a sudden or over time, we're a rock star back then, and now you just feel like, I'm really not at the top of my game, guess what? It's not you, it's them. You've not changed. You still have the skills, you still have the capabilities, the drive, the desire, the ability to make that impact. It's just the environment around you has changed where that is no longer heard, valued, or sought after. And so if you have lost your mojo, remember this, you didn't lose your mojo. Your mojo is now just not being recognized in the environment that you're in. And you need to take your mojo and you need to go someplace else that really does value it. And it's amazing how much and how fast that changes. When you take who you are and you put it in an environment that now serves you, all of a sudden everything comes back into focus and you are ready to go. The second warning sign that in need of a career pivot is that you really start to care less about the work. And Gallup did a survey, I think back in 2018. And the long story short is out of, the billion full-time work population globally, 70% of the workforce could care less about their job. They are completely disengaged. And let's face it, when you look at HR activities and you look at, employee engagement, all the conversation around that, all the data points to people just don't care. Now, is it because they don't want to care? I don't believe that for a minute. I think people want to care about what they do. I think they want to have passion for what they do. I think they want to have enthusiasm and motivation and really feel like they're making an impact both for themselves, their department, their customers, and all of those things. But because we often stay in a role that we don't belong in anymore, then the apathy starts to kick in. And apathy is awful. I think that's like the abyss. I'd rather love something or hate something than have that benign feeling that, no one cares about any of this. So if you've really not given a crap about what you're doing for a really long time, it is definitely time for you to make a pivot. All right. The third thing is that you feel stuck and you're not growing anymore. And this is, I think, one of the biggest issues that a lot of clients face is that, okay, I was moving along. I was, accelerating my career at a pace that I thought was really, really good and I was happy with. And then all of a sudden, everything stood still and everything stopped. And I don't know why. And I don't know how to undo it. But all I know is I'm stuck. And even worse than that, I am not growing. And so if you are not in a consistent state of learning something new, being able to try new things, being exposed to new ideas, and being really able to grow. And I'm not talking just promotions, right? Because let's face it, promotions are events. They're not daily activities. But if every single day you're not learning something new, or every single day you're not finding something to enrich your career, your life, your teams, whatever the case may be, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, then you're stuck. And that is the equivalent to career suicide. You never, ever, ever want to be in that boat. So if you feel like you are stuck, or if you have been stuck for a while, that is absolutely a red flag that it is time to make a pivot. The question becomes, is it time to make a pivot to a different company? Or is it time to make a pivot to a completely different career, right? And that's something we can talk about a little bit later. And then one of the other reasons, or one of the other things that is a warning sign that you are well overdue for a pivot, if you feel like you are only in that job for the money, right? Let's face it, we work hard to get where we are. And it feels like a luxury to say, oh, forget that. I don't need the money. I'm just going to go do something I love, right? I'm going to go work for the Peace Corps, or something like that. I mean, no one can do that. Most of my clients have, a couple houses, maybe an ex-wife or an ex-husband they're paying for, a couple kids in college. And that is just not a luxury anybody can afford. And so if you are staying in your job because you feel like you're tied to the money, because let's face it, reality counts and bills are real and things, your lifestyle is how you're used to living, then that's something you want to think about. And I'm going to challenge that belief in terms that if I change careers, if I make a pivot, I'm going to have to give up everything I've worked so hard for in terms of compensation, influence, the ability to lead. That is not true. And actually, it's been a fascinating 2020 for my customers in terms of the clients that have come through some of these programs. 93% of them have made the pivot that they wanted to during COVID. And the kicker is they're making on average 20% more. And so we do like to tell ourselves, nope, if I'm making a pivot, I'm going to have to give too much up. But when you take that barrier away and you realize that, hang on a second, there is a way for me to not hate my job and still keep hard for, that opens up opportunities. So if you are sitting there knowing that you're stuck in this job because you've got the golden handcuffs, there is help and there's an opportunity for you to move elsewhere. Okay. And then the last thing that I want to give you a heads up on that is a definite red flag that it is time for you to pivot is if on Sunday night your brain starts going, you get that feeling in your gut, and you're like, oh, for God's sakes, we got to do this again, right? Because if you are not waking up loving every Monday morning, you're doing it wrong. And there's a better way. And so you need to get to that point where, if you're feeling that on Sunday and you're just dreading having to get out of bed on Monday morning and you're slogging through your emails, and you're sitting in these meetings and you're just like, oh, it's like Groundhog Day. I mean, that becomes soul crushing after a while. But then we become desensitized to it. If we've done it long enough, we think that's just how it's supposed to be. And it's not. And so I want you to think about these 5 things that in that chat window, tell me, have you lost your mojo? And have you pulled away from your work? Are you apathetic about the things that you do and the results and the company and all the things that you used to care about? And do you feel stuck? Are you not growing the way you should be? And then if you are stuck because you're in it for the money and the golden handcuffs and you feel like that is your only option. And the last one is if you dread Monday mornings. Right. So those are the big 5. And if you have, and I see a few people in here like 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5, those types of things, then you need to really give 2021 a shot at taking a look at pivoting your career. Now, if you have these symptoms, you could be suffering from a career fatal disease called I want out-itis. And you should seek professional help immediately. But no, I'm just kidding. But the reality is there is help out there, right? And this is what we do at the Career Winner Circle every single day, is we help ambitious professionals love what they do again and make the impact that they know they can make. And if you've been sitting in no man's land for too long, thinking that this is what you need to do because this is what it means to adults, and I've got to be a grown-up and I've got to do these things, then I want you to really, really spend some time thinking about how can you have a different outcome for yourself. And then come check us out at the Career Winner Circle because we are running a huge challenge right now that people are just having amazing results. And we have a program called the Career Accelerator Program that takes people from exactly where you are today straight through to landing your dream job in around 4 months with about 20% more compensation, which is beyond exciting in terms of results. And so hopefully these tips are going to help you kind of get your head clear and realize that the things that you've been accepting as the way things are supposed to be isn't true. And how I want you to think about this is you deserve more, and you don't have to sacrifice everything that you've worked for to get that happy career that you want for yourself. The question is, are you willing to do it? Are you worth it? I think you are, and I bet you think you are too. So come check us out at the Career Winner Circle. You'll see the link in this post, and I will see you guys next Wednesday. Have a great week.